All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of vBrownBag, the weekly IT video podcast where we bring you luminaries, visionaries, and geniuses from the IT sphere to talk about nerd stuff. This evening, we are excited to have an old friend of the show back with us, Mr. Michael Kennedy, who is the host of the Talk Python podcast, co-host of the Python Bytes podcast, a instructor, and an all-around wonderful human being. And tonight we are going to talk about consuming web data in Python with and without an API. Mr. Kennedy, it's always a pleasure to have you on. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing very well. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
So before we get into it, let's get through some show notes. If you are in the live studio audience and you want to chat with us, feel free to drop a link in the chat, or not a link, a note in the chat or in the Q&A. If you are online and you are listening to this in the future and you have some questions, you can find us at vBrownBag on literally all the social media things. Who knows what's going to be happening with the different things that are Mastodon, Twitter, Threads. We're on all of them at vBrownBag. You can find me at Mistwire on all of them. You can find Shala at Gifted Lane on all of them. Roger, where are you on the things? Are you Roger K. White on all this stuff?
I'm just Roger K. White on Twitter.
All right, you're gonna have to fix that.
I don't have anything else except for Twitter.
And Shala, you're Gifted Lane on Instagram, Threads, TikTok, all the things?
Yeah, everywhere Gifted Lane, and because Twitter is going to get interesting with the whole monthly subscriptions. I'm not paying for that.
I will not pay for a single red cent.
I'm sorry. We have to call it X. It's X.
Nope.
Never.
Not doing it. It's always going to be Twitter. And you can find Mr. Kennedy at mkennedy on Mastodon, Twitter, and anywhere else that you wanted to talk about.
Those two are good. Find me at the podcast, talkpython.fm, and then those two places.
Awesome. Yeah. And you've got all of those links in there. And of course, we'll put them all in the show notes because you have fantastic learning material as well. I use your app when I'm on the road all the time. Okay.
Awesome.
So let me drop this and get back into happy faces. There we go. Happy faces. So as I was explaining, we have kind of morphed it since the last time you were on. We now have a panel of folks to have a lovely conversation. We're gonna do the presentation stuff and everything, but we are all avid lovers of Python. We come from different backgrounds in different professions, so it leads to a more robust conversation. So if you want, let me give you the power to share. The power of sharing. All right, I think you have the power now. I could be wrong.
I shall share. Oh, I can't do it while the other participants are sharing.
Oh, I gotta stop sharing. Oh, okay, there we go. I'm on the road right now. For the people that didn't hear the beginning of this, I'm on the road at the lovely Doubletree in Jersey City for a company offsite, and I don't have any of my setup. I'm all flustered, and I have no idea what's going on when I only have one screen. So I apologize for the. Thank you, Graham. You're a big jerk. All right.
Shall we talk some Python?
I would love to talk some Python.
Awesome. All right. Well, and Chris asked me for a topic quite a while ago. We planned this out. It's been months since we put this together. I thought I kind of wanted to just have a free range. That's the new good kind. You want the free range eggs. How about the free range presentation where we just sort of go around the different possibilities. So that's consuming web data.
Farm to table, locally grown. I'm in.
Server to screen straight. There's no processing at all here. So I kind of want to just take a survey of all the ways in which you might consume and interact with web data in Python. No matter what your experience level is, some of the stuff you're like, yeah, I know that. Oh, wait, that's actually awesome. I didn't know that. I'm pretty sure there's going to be something new for people at all levels. So I'm really excited about that. As Chris said, you can find me on the Mastodon or Twitter or whatever that thing is called now. All right. First question is, can I download the code? Let me use Text Sniper, which is an awesome app, so I can copy and paste that to everyone. There we go. Oh, you got to put the .zip back in and put a space in there. Sorry. But for minor adjustments to the URL, because I just screen captured it and then OCR'd it, it'll work. So yeah, you can download it. This has the slides. It has the code as well. It's already there, so it's not going to be exactly the code I wrote, but let's treat it as an ideal. It's the code I want to write. We'll see how well I do on this, okay? Okay. So like I said, a broad, high-level view of APIs and non-APIs and Python, and I think there's a lot to learn for everyone here, so it's going to be a lot of fun. First of all, examples of good APIs. You can check out things like Stripe, stripe.com/docs/API. They've, really, in a really powerful way, they have client libraries. We'll talk about this, right? You can see at the bottom here, it says client libraries, Ruby, PHP, Python, and so on. This is like top shelf API consumption right here. We've got OpenAPI again, or OpenAI for ChatGPT-like functionality, pip install. That means, again, top shelf. You've already got a library, it already understands all the things. It's built, maintained, and evolved for you. So, pip install -- upgrade, and you get the new one. You don't have to reread the docs and reprogram it. Twilio is also really good. Actually, I have a class on Twilio, a free class. People can check that out. And the Slack API is excellent. So these are some examples of good ones that you might check out. But what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the spectrum of API or non-API data consumption and the different ways you might go get data. You might do it synchronously, you might do it asynchronously, you might do it strongly typed, you might do it loosely typed, you might have a Python library, you might have just here's the URL, you might even have no API, and you might think, well, that's going to stop me. No, that won't stop us. So the first thing, and the least, this is like an increasing scale of goodness. The least good is that there's just a website, no API. But like I said, barring any terms of use that prohibit this, you can go and use that anyways. We'll see. API, but no real docs or anything, right? That's kind of okay. We've got SOAP XML services. If you've ever experienced those are amazing. Basically use tools to generate a really complicated namespace laden XML parsing thing that actually works pretty good in the end, but without the tooling is impossible. Then you've got things like Open API documentation, Fast API, and others like Django Ninja automatically generate those for us. Got your third-party Python client and your first-party. Those are some of the ones we just saw, top shelf. OpenAI makes their Python client, hopefully. Not always in the best way. For example, I'm pretty sure the AWS ones are generated out of some source. They seem to always kind of vary like that. I know others are as well. Okay, so let's dig into a couple of examples that here. So we already talked about Stripe or OpenAI, we just pip install that. We're going to look at one here, not that. Let's go and create a new window. We'll do this. And we'll go to weather at talkpython.fm. And now here's one of these. I'm going to be constantly battling Zoom overlays, so bear with me. This is a live weather data. I put this together for my various courses. So anytime I need an API, I can program against it and it doesn't change. So I can see what is the weather right now in Portland, Oregon, where I am. Apparently it's scattered clouds and it feels like 64.8 for those of you metric who prefer metric. It's 18.4. So you can ask it whatever it is. And this is live data. Don't go and build your next great carrot weather competitor. This is it's got limited, but it does have real data. It's just heavily rate limited, basically. All right. So this actually, because it's written in Fast API, I can go to just /docs and it'll show me, if I expand this out, all the structure of what it might return in the schema. And there's tools to take these open API docs and actually generate different language clients for it, similar to the SOAP ones, like I said. So we're going to be using this thing a fair amount as well. The last one let's look at PyPI real quick. Is I was just checking out ConvertKit to move away from MailChimp, which is driving me a little crazy. I thought, oh, is there a Python library? Yes. I'm like, yes, I don't have to go and read their documentation and figure it out. I can just call 3 functions, the 3 I need, and I'll be good to go. But you go over here and you're like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, this is sad. You go to the homepage. Go to the homepage, and this awesome Justin Abrams. Yeah, I mean, thank you for that. But if you scroll down, it's like, well, we've got 2 of the things kind of implemented. You can list the forms and add a subscriber. There's no, it's not GDPR compliant. It's a one-way thing. So when you're thinking about working with data through Python on the internet through various programming techniques, you want to start as high up on the shelf as possible. Like I said, pip installs something right from the company that's well maintained, especially if it's custom written for Python and not just generated out of a bunch of documentation with star args, star KWArgs everywhere. You're in a better place if you can do that. But then, hopefully you've got some of the documentation like I showed here, right? And onwards. These things make me nervous, depending on something like this with 1 star. It's half finished. Like, it might help you, but I wouldn't build on something like this, right? Okay.
And I use ConvertKit, so I was interested to see.
Would be nice. Well, who knows? Maybe I'll publish one if I end up going into those. Okay. Because I'm going to have to probably write it. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to start out in kind of a messy way. And that should harken back to this picture here. We're going to kind of start on the left and go to the right. We're going to skip the SOAP XML services. I hope you don't mind. Yes.
No, I don't mind at all.
There is a library called SUDS, as in SOAP and SUDS, SUDS, in Python that you can consume SOAP services if you must, but not something we're going to talk about. All right, so we're going to start kind of this more messy side of things. Also, the least advanced, I suppose, in terms of like only straight synchronous code. All right, you all jump out the way. So we'll go make a new project, and this is just going to go onto the desktop live vBrownBag as opposed to the, one I already gave you. All right, so this is going to be starting from scratch, as you can see here. We don't really need the main, but I guess I didn't uncheck it, did I? So we'll start out with a D1. And in this first example, the idea that I want to come after, still not that one. Let's see, is I want to go to Talk Python here. And I want to list out in my program, I want to list out those numbers and those titles, okay? So we're going to do this in a couple of ways. And by doing so, we're going to see how, in this first pass, how you consume data with no API in a couple of scenarios. And then we'll work our way more into the API side of things, okay? Well, so first of all, we're going to need this URL. And this is going to be going against live data, which is always fun. So it should update to whatever as we go back over here. And I'll call this Talk Python titles sync, as opposed to async, which will be next. So for this one, what do we need to do? We need to use some kind of library, and the knee-jerk reaction, the most likely default one, as you will see at the end, I have some cool artificial intelligence tricks for you at the end of the presentation here, is going to be requests. So import requests, rats, there's no request. So let's set this up so we can use some of the libraries that we're going to need. I'm going to add a new file called requirements.in, not txt, because I want to use this thing called pip tools. So I'm just going to write requests. We're also going to use pandas. We'll use HTTPX. I want to use feed parser, Pydantic. We'll start with that. I'm sure we'll run into errors in a minute. So for this, you can see we have the virtual environment active. There's a cool thing called pip tools that will generate a comprehensive requirements.txt for you from this. So I can say pip. Now, to show you what this actually is, it's an alias. So you would say pip compiled requirements in an upgrade if you want. So we do that. And what it makes is all the things and all the explanations of why they're there.
Oh, that's slick. I like that.
And you ask for an upgrade. Only when you ask for an upgrade, it takes these and it finds a set that matches all the requirements and then upgrades all of them, even the transitive dependencies. So I got to install pip install requirements. So do that real quick. And one waits.
My favorite part of having you on the show is I get like a shopping list of things to check out afterwards every time.
Yeah, that's how I live my life, Chris. I just go around and go, that's awesome. That's awesome. Let me write that down.
Ooh, I should try that out. All right.
Yeah. All right. So pip install requests like so. And let's go and create a main method which says hi. And then, of course, call it like so. And in here, I threw away the thing I needed. What we want to do is we want to have the URL, which is going to be episode/all, I believe is what it was. We'll find out in a minute. And in order to consume this data, well, what I want to do is I want to actually just get the HTML using requests. So let's start there, right? There's no API. So we're just going to go to this one. If you're not using Vivaldi, you might not have the cool hotkey driving capabilities, but let's look at 430, right? So what we're going to do is we're just going to go grab this HTML and we're going to somehow get a hold of this, and then we're going to somehow get a hold of that. And to do that, you might think Beautiful Soup, and Beautiful Soup is beautiful, but we'll use Parcel. Parcel comes with Scrapey, is a foundation of Scrapey, and their read the docs is slow, it turns out, for some reason. It doesn't matter. I don't really. Yeah, here we go. And what it lets you do is it's similar, but it has some like really nice, clean CSS behaviors that you can write here. Okay. So what we're going to do is first get the HTML, first response. I'm going to do requests.get URL. That's great. And it unimported that, but now it re-imported it. So this is cool. Now, how do you know it worked? You don't know, but you can say if something went wrong, raise an exception. So after that line, things are good. So we'll have HTML just be response.text. And we could print out, I don't know. Did I run the right thing? It said your thing is not there. There you go. And you can see some sweet elements here, some HTML5 and all those things, right? But that's not what that's not what we want to do. We want to go over here and use Parcel, which is one of these things I forgot, Parcel. So back into this world. One moment as it regenerates. You don't have to run this command, by the way. Just run pip install requirements.txt. But I kind of want to show you some fun tips. Parcel. So we're going to import parcel.selector like that. And we give it, we say the text, there's a lot of stuff, we put in including whether it's treated a huge tree, if we want to get a huge amount of this. And then we'll just say like this, we'll say links. Well, how would you find that? Over here, you would say, okay, there's a table and it has an episodes class. And then in there's some table rows, table data. But most importantly, there's a table data that just contains a hyperlink, and the hyperlink itself contains what we want from it. So in CSS, we would just say table.episodes, if you want to be super clear. And then that has a TD, and that TD has an immediate child of an A, and we'll just have 4L in length, print L. And we wait, and look at that. Somewhere in here, there's a bunch of stuff about episodes. How awesome is that? Like, look how cool Python is. Look, I mean, look what we're doing in that 10, 15 lines of code. That's ridiculous.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So, but we don't want the actual thing. What we want is I believe we can say : text dot get is what we want. Look at that. So those are the titles of all the things. And maybe we only want the top 20, right? So : 20, do a slice on the list of links, and it automatically sorts by the newest to oldest. So this will be the most recent 20. The top one should be radio right there. How awesome is that? So does the website have an API? No, it doesn't mean you can't get to it. Now, I'm not telling you.
Doesn't even need it.
I'm not telling you to break like terms of service, and please don't like abuse stuff. But if you need data, this is some really interesting ways to get it. So Parcel is really cool. And if you know CSS, you basically already know how to do all this magic, which is pretty awesome. I want to write one more way because I want to move over to that here. Like, suppose you had to go page by page. So you want this page, and then you want Shiny for Python and so on. Let's rewrite this code so that we could actually go individual page at a time, because I want to upgrade this, and you really only get a benefit if you do more than one thing. So let's first of all extract that to a method. We'll call it get via list, right? Awesome. And let's comment that and say get via pages, I guess. Come in here, and let's say for n in range from 420 to 410 to 430, something like that. What we want to do is we want to go get title n, like that. Okay, so this little bit over here, we're going to go and do something real similar. And it's going to look like this. But now, it's also going to look like this. Now, on those individual pages, that name is up here as an H1 because we all love our SEO and our semantic web, right? So how do I get the H1? Well, in CSS, I would say title is going to be dom.css of H1. But I don't want the whole H1. I just want the text out of it. And we'll turn title. Now, this will be, there's a cool trick that I did on the TalkPython website where if you just go talkpython.fm/some number, it'll go and find out this great long URL up here and get you there. So we'll just do like an N. And if one can actually type, that should get us there. And that'll get us the right thing. We'll add the title, return the title.
Oh, that's why you did 410 to 430. Okay, I was like, why 410 to 4? Okay, I got it now.
These are like some recent ones.
Right.
Instead of this raise, you might want to say, well, if somebody jams in the wrong number here, let's say this, I'll comment this out. We'll say if response.status code is not equal to 200 or return none, right? Something like that. All right, try it again. It'll be slower, but look at it go. This is going in the other order, hitting the website. That's pretty cool. I mean, you can see it's one short of the very latest one, but pretty much right. But you can see like that's dragging. Like we were able to hit one page the first time and go super fast. Now it's like, well, we got these 20 to go through. So slow. Now, one thing you might hear people say, and my assertion, my contention is those people are not accurate, is that there's no point in doing async programming in Python because the GIL. Well, sometimes you're waiting on things that are not running in Python, but like this, but things like the internet. In those cases, async Python is awesome. So let's rewrite this async real quick. We're going to use async enabled library, HTTPX, which is way better. I'm going to write some async code here. This is going to be async here, which makes this async here. And we'll fix that in a second. And for the async one, there's not going to be a list. And this is going to be now a coroutine And if I run it, you're not going to have an amazing outcome. It'll just say, oh, well, it gave me a wrong error, but eventually it's going to say coroutine was not awaited. So I'll just say async IO dot run this coroutine. Now we got to go fix this. This is await, not async. There we go. Okay, so for this, we're not using requests anymore. Welcome to the crazy new world. We have an async with block, HTTPX async client as client. And then instead of just getting the request like this, using the client, this is a asynchronous function, a coroutine. You can say, like, the coroutine doesn't have a status code. So to turn that into a real thing, we await it. It says, if you want to await it, this has to be async. And up here, it says, if you want to have it done like that, you have to await it. Whew. Okay. So now everything should be going along fine, except this needs it makes a different choice of following redirects by default. This one does not, request does. So then we need to go and get that, right? Get this piece here. This is our async function, right? Super cool. And we're going to kick off a bunch of them here. Let's go and run this one. You'll see how much better async is. Oh no, no better. Why is it not better? Because let's talk through it. Go to the number 410. Wait for the first one to be done. Then go to the next number. Wait for the next one to be done. That's exactly what we were doing before. So we got to have this like kind of in a two-part deal. So we'll say tasks. We got to start them all and then get them done. So down here we'll say tasks dot append, and we'll say async IO dot create task of. So basically create task says start running this thing. Now that all start, and we'll put a little print getting title for n. You know what that means. And then we're going to go down here and say for task in tasks, like this, we're going to await, right? Just await task. Okay, so go to each one of these, and in order, just wait for it to be done. This is going to return HTML. It's not totally clear what that was. That weird await task as a print. Ready? See if we notice any difference now. Started, done. Awesome, right? So if you're going to more than one thing on the internet, I'll do it again. Cool. Started, done. Use some, even though the reflexive thing to do is to say request, request, request. That's what they tell me. It's always requests. Request is awesome. HTTPX is very, very similar, but it's more awesome. So that's a good one. Now, it turns out that TalkPython has this little icon right here as well. Wouldn't really surprise you to know that there's an RSS feed for a podcast site now, would there? That's how podcasts work, where they originally came from. Shocking. Shocking. So let's go and say, all right, well, it's kind of an API. Kind of an API. So let's go over here and say, we don't need this async. Actually, we'll leave the async. Why not? It won't hurt us. We'll not do that one. We'll do await get via RSS, which is going to be that. And we don't need the rest. So for RSS, we can use a totally different library, which is feed parser. So feed parser is a thing for parsing RSS and Atom feeds. So if you got that kind of data, you're like, oh, this thing has some kind of RSS going on. Let's use that instead, right? So we'll go and get this via RSS, which means kind of took a bit more of a chunk out than I wanted, but URL is equal to .fm/RSS should be sufficient. Async with httpx.async client. This is all review now, right? As client. RSS text equals client.get URL follow redirects true. Oh, hold on. That's the response. Response.raise for raise. What's the problem? Why is this giving me weird stuff? Coroutine. I didn't do an await. Raise for status. And then RSS text is going to be risp.text. And then we want to use feed parser. So we'll say feed parser.parse this text here. And I guess we could just kind of inline this, right? Inline, I told you, not introduced a variable. That's the one. Okay, so in here, this is, maybe call it let's call this RSS, all right? So let's print out just the titles now for item in RSS dot entries, entries, print item. Now here, this item is like a pub date, a title, an enclosure, all those things. So I'll just say I want a title. Try again. Am I running the right one? Probably not. Let's make sure. Look at that. There's all of them, all 400 and whatever, 30, which is excellent. Again, that's probably not what we want. So let's say we want the last 20. And there you go. Way more stable API, right? We got our RSS or XML data coming in. So all these interesting libraries and ways in which you can program against web stuff. None of these yet have an API. We're about to get to the API. But what do y'all think? Pretty cool?
Yeah. And also want to ask one of the questions from the chat too. Let's see, where's that question at? Oh, so Graham asks, so does this help get around all those sites that want to separate login ID and password onto separate screens, for instance?
Potentially, if I was working with a thing that had some kind of login restrictions and authentication, I would probably look at Playwright and check that out. Don't really need to install. I just want to see what it is. So this is like Selenium, but nicer. So you can say like, await browser launch, whatever browser it is. And this one, you can run it for all the different browsers. It's for testing, right? But you pick your favorite, pick Chromium, whatever. Browser type launch, await a new page, go to here. You can do screenshots. You can click the button, put my name into the login, follow the redirect. I would probably go after it with something like this for the kind of scenario you're talking about. Okay. Back to the slides for a second. Let's see where we are. So we're ahead of this. We had this messy version where we just wrote it in async. Then we rewrote it in async where multiple people, multiple threads, multiple bits of the internet are all working on it at the same time. That's excellent. There's also other APIs like RSS, right? It's not officially an API, but it is kind of an API. Like we have this super, super optimized. We deliver over a terabyte of RSS for TalkPython a month. And that's a lot of text. But so we've got it down coming out of the data. It actually is like live out of the database, but it's 9 milliseconds to render like half a meg of XML.
Just the RSS text feed is a terabyte for TalkPython?
I believe so,
Wow.
We do 20 terabytes of traffic a month. So just the RSS.
I was gonna say, what's the video and audio then? It's 20 TB?
More. It's more. Good guess. All right. Let's go and program against this TalkPython weather. And this will be a fun little example, but we're going to build on it. So the first pass is going to be, again, a little bit messy, and then it's going to get more awesome. So hopefully you're seeing like, actually, this is pretty fast. It's pretty cool. Let's go. I'm going to borrow this async one. We'll call this demo 4 TalkPython weather. Because when we're talking to the internet, it might as well do it asynchronously. So we'll write this here. So I'm going to say city equals input. What city do you want the weather for? State. And which state is it in? If you're outside the US, I'm sorry. This is how it works. I realize that's not how it should work for everyone, but that's okay. Strip.lower, and this will be .strip.upper. Okay. So then we're going to go get the weather. And I'll just rob this bit here, get weather. a city, state, and of course, there should be a string. That should be a string. And it's going to return a dictionary for now, let's say. Okay. So here we will say data equals a weight. It's async because it can be city, state. Yeah. Now what comes back? Print. I'll just print out the data for a second because you'll see it's kind of a mess. We don't need parcel, by the way. So down here, again, the URL is going to be what? Let's go find out. Here it is. So it's going to be something like this, in quotes. And we're going to say, all right, the city goes here and the state goes there. And I'm going to leave that part alone. You guys can go fix it, or we'll have some fun things we do with it in a little bit. Again, async with httpx.async client. That's client. Response is await client.get URL follow redirects. Why not? Rest.raise for status. Whew. Now we have JSON. So how do we get the JSON data? Right now, it's just a dictionary. We don't really know what to do with it. So we'll say data equals response.json. And long as it's a JSON response, we're good to go. It'll convert the JSON to Python. We go and run this. What do we get? Run. Port. Oh, no, not up there. Portland. Oh, it's going to hate it. It 404s when it's not an existing location. Portland. So you must type it right. Ooh, look at this. Something came back. We got some weather. It has a description of clear sky, the wind speed, and we have a forecast, which is a temperature. Awesome. So we did it. Let's go and it's just a matter of juggling dictionaries at this point and juggling Zoom overlays. So we'll say condition is going to be data.get of, let's look again. Here we go. We'll fix this. It's going to be weather, which then contains a description. And that's what we want. So this will be weather, get description. Now, if this weather doesn't exist, this is going to return none and that's going to crash. So one thing that's cool that you can kind of do here to make it just return nothing is you can put the default as an empty dictionary rather than nothing. So you can just chain these together without checking and you just get an empty condition in the end. That's fun. Temp, it's going to be, this one is in forecast here. And then we have temp. And then, so this is a number like that. So we'll have to do a float of that if you want to do meaningful work with it. Then we can print out, how about the F goes on the outside, the weather in city is currently temp F and condition, like so. Let's try again. Portland, Oregon. Awesome. The weather in Portland is currently such and such. So again, we were able to use our async, we were able to use our HTTPX, and it just knows about JSON, as does request. This code is basically, other than that little bit, identical to requests by design, right? So that's pretty awesome. But one thing to notice is this, let's imagine we inline this and we inline this, and then we wrap this. I mean, look at this. This is bad, folks. This is not the way you want to work with your data, but because it's just this untyped dictionary, we're hoping it's a float, I guess. I mean, what happens if it comes back? Do we give a nice error? No, we just get, cannot parse float from none cannot be converted to float or something like that. I don't know. So pretty weird, but this is what we're going for. This is the first pass, right? Where did my slides go? There we go. All right, so that's pretty good. Not too hard. It's really just mostly juggling dictionaries. But let me show you the crown jewel of, wow, it did that. Let's check out Oregon. They exist on Wikipedia, right? Over here, we can see things about Oregon, the state where I am. And if I can make it fit, there we go. You can see It's got some history. If you don't know, it lives in that part of the U.S. I live at the top crinkly bit of it. There's a bunch of stuff in here. History. When I moved here, got a book on history of it, and I read it. It was really interesting. But notice there's things like the largest cities or towns in Oregon, or the Oregon racial composition, or this is the one I want to work with, the speakers with limited English proficiency by language as of last year. Spanish, Vietnamese being number 2 is pretty interesting to me. The fact that there are 142 French and 139 German seems
that oddly specific,
suspiciously accurate. Like, how do you know there's 139? Wir haben alle gesprochen mit.
And that they didn't move out in the past week.
They had no babies. They haven't moved. So take it for what it is. It's a snapshot, a point in time. But what if I want to do data science against this? Look at this bad boy. Like, could you imagine what view source looks like on this? And then how do I find this? And what's the CSS selector? Let me copy this real quick. So check this out. This is going to be fun. So let's go over here and I'll just do a new file. This will be D5 tables. So I want to work with tabular data. So I'll have my little name trick and I'll define a main method because that's just the way I roll. I want to put the high level logic at the top and then put stuff below. And if it's a flat script, you can't do that. So I want to come over here and I want to say the URL is something like, no, this will be title. This will be the title of the table. The URL is going to be whatever that is. Like so. And I don't necessarily want to take guesses, but in your mind, think how many lines of code will Michael have to write to get this as a pandas data frame? This with those numbers, with this as a number, with that as a string, like
as a pandas data frame.
As a panda, download it from the internet, parse the HTML, find that table, get it as a pandas data frame.
I mean, you're really good. So I want to say, Roger's saying 10. I'm going to go with 15.
All right.
Charlotte, you want to make a guess? You want to throw a number in there?
I'm guessing. I'm also, it only counts what's inside of main here. So
I want to say 5.
Oh, I think you might be a winner. Let's see. All right.
Nice spread.
So
there we go.
We'll have tables is going to be let's do an import. Let's be data sciencey. That's not my style, but import pandas as PD. The PD is the data sciencey part. Read HTML URL. And this goal of reading HTML is it's off on a hunt for tabular data. And if I just do this, it will return 38 tables from that page. I believe it's 38. But I can also say the match is equal to the title. I can print tables.head and format it, of course, so it doesn't look wrong. Run it. Wait for it. Wait for it. Why is it slow? List. Oh, the thing is, it still comes back as a table. All right, so we'll say if len of tables is not equal to 1. All right. Weird. Return. Here we go. So the table is going to be bracket 0. Those are the data frames. There we go. Look at that.
Getting close to 10.
I think that the error handling doesn't count.
That doesn't count. Yeah, no, that's 4 lines. That's 4 lines right there.
This is not real code. This is not production code, right? But yeah, sure. If you have that, it's fair. Or maybe
he's just busting your balls. That's 4 lines of code. That is 4 lines.
Is that insane or what?
That is madness.
Yeah. Instead of printing the head, I'll just print the whole thing. So we can see the Germans 139, the French 142. That is madness, folks. That is madness. And I could inline this.
Wow.
I mean, if we're gonna go start worrying about that. Just
see, I knew you're gonna do that. Just
impressive, right?
Yeah, I mean that's I haven't even like I said, you well, actually, a couple of comments. I've been watching your material, and I've been a subscriber for a long time to your courses and everything.
Thank you.
You've dramatically picked up speed since your first courses. Like, I normally watch all things at 1.5, 2x, and you're blazing through this like at normally what I set to 1.5. So you're now you've sped up dramatically.
I told you it's a wide-ranging, free roam, cage-free demo. I gotta keep moving. Sorry, someone else.
It's healthy.
Yeah,
no, I was just gonna say it's pretty impressive that you've just done all this on the fly.
Yes.
Going straight through. I mean, I'm like, what? I mean,
my mind is blown. Exactly. Like, I was just like, good Lord.
Thank you. It hasn't gone too terribly wrong. I did forget to index into it, but it's not too bad of a deal. Okay.
Yeah, that was unacceptable.
It was totally unacceptable. Barbaric. Okay. So tabular data, pandas, read HTML, mind blown, right? This actually got from Chris Moffat's Practical Business Python. He wrote an Excel to Python course for Talk Python, and like that's one of the things he presents in there, which is excellent. So thanks, Chris. But if we go back, there's like so much unstructured data here, like especially in the weather example, right? Like this is not a good way to be doing this, right? So what is the right answer? The right answer is to go to the right web browser, to go to Pydantic. Pydantic.dev is what I want to go. So Pydantic is a strongly typed, structured way of consuming data. It could be data going into an API. That's where like Fast API uses it, and that's where it's pretty commonly known. But you can use it as well as yours to consume data. And they just rewrote it in Python and Pydantic 2, partially in Rust. It took them over half a year to do this rewrite, which is insane. But it's like 5 to 50 times faster than it previously was, which is pretty excellent. So that's good news. We will be using Pydantic 2. How do we know? Go down here, find what got put in here. Pydantic core and Pydantic 2 right there. Okay, so we're going to use Pydantic 2, although there's only a few minor consumer differences. And let's make this weather better. Where are we? We're at 6. Trying to do this so it sorts in the right order. Close. Oh, I'm going to close others, but that works as well. Let's run that. It's not really what we want yet, but it's on its way. So how does Pydantic work? We're going to go over here and import Pydantic, and we're going to say class weather report. It's Pydantic. That's cool. Base model. That's amazing. And then, wait a minute. If this is all nasty, just wait till you see all of it. Like this. Right, this weather, and there's stuff nested, then there's a wind, and there's stuff nested, and there's a location, and oh my goodness. How do we get started with this? You could write it as a series of 5 or 6 different classes in Pydantic, but you shouldn't start there. Instead, it's over to your friend Jason. JSON always helps me write Pydantic code. So JSON to Pydantic converter, paste. There we are. There's the Pydantic all model with all the nesting and relationships we need. How about that? Is that awesome or what? Right. So for example, we went to weather description and we went to forecast temp.
Oh, that's awesome. JSON to pydantic.com. Cool. Yes.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. Okay. So that's easy. Let's go back. There's enough of things here I'm going to put in. It's to let's call it weather models, because there's like 5 or 6 classes models. Paste, format. Whatever. Okay. So here's the very last thing. It's called model. I'll call this a weather report, and we're going to use that. So instead of going like, oh my gosh, I've got to write this gnarly thing, I'm going to go down here and instead say, what does this return? Let's go to the get weather. No longer a dictionary, but it returns one of these awesome weather reports. And how hard is it to write this code? Like, so we went and we wrote this, we just dumped the response of some rando API into JSON to Pydantic. I pasted the results into here. I renamed model to something meaningful. how hard is it to integrate this now? So here we did .json to return data. So we're just going to return a weather report where we pass by key value argument all the items that might have come back. In Python, it has a way to explode a dictionary to say weather equals forecast equals, et cetera, out of the dictionary. And so what comes back here is no longer one of those, and it doesn't have a get and so on. So this would just be .weather. Check that out. First of all, wind, weather units, and it knows what these are. So weather.description.
Sweet.
And this is already parsed. So if we go over here, go to the forecast, the temperature is afloat. It's already parsed and verified to be afloat. So this conversion is done. We just say data.forecast. Oops, not still not forecast.temp. Awesome, right?
Well, very cool. That's
awesome.
amazing.
Thanks. Awesome if it runs, not if it doesn't run. All right. Boston. Oh, that's not going to love it. Try again.
Merp.
It must die. There we go. All right. Boston, Massachusetts. There you go. 59 degrees and clear skies. How about Las Vegas, Nevada? Saw the weather's kind of crazy there. It had heavy rain, which is not how I normally think of Vegas, but okay.
Wow.
You go desert. But yeah, look at that. Isn't that awesome? And so all of this data, all the data coming back from the API is already parsed. It's already validated. And let me just show you like one more thing. Like, let's suppose I don't want to call in the main weather thing. I don't want to say weather report dot weather. I'll call this, let's call this condition, right? So it could be a weather model, or it could be called a condition. I don't know. Let's just call it, hold on. Let's do it from down here. We can call this a condition. Rename condition. Microphone is in the way. More importantly, though, the way people consume it, let's call this condition. So, oops. So over here, you can see it got renamed a condition. And this description, I'm going to call that, in the condition, I'm going to call that desk. Just something shorter. Like that. Okay. Yeah. So now it's condition.description. You could almost start inlining this. Not introducing a variable. But inline, right? Because it's kind of simple enough now that you could even do that, right? However, if I run it, it's going to hate it. Why? Because Pydantic says this thing called weather and then the description, it doesn't exist. This field used to be there and it's not. So final little trick, if you kind of want to bend this to your will, you can say, you know what, I know I'm going to call it description, desk, but it used to be called description. And that's Pydantic needs to look in the JSON for a thing called condition. So I can say pydantic.field name equal, oh no, name alias equals description. And then down here, similarly, this is going to be pydantic.field alias, what was it, weather? And yeah, I think that'll do. Try again. There we go. Right. So you can have these not match if you want, but you've got to help a little. You've got to help Pydantic out to say, look, there's really no thing called condition here. I can't do that. But you're like, no. That one really comes from the weather field. Cool, right?
Yes, very cool.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So we don't need dictionaries. We can use Pydantic. And there's other things. There's data classes. There's other things. But the Pydantic with things like JSON to Pydantic are just so easy. I'll show you some other ones as well. So we did the Pydantic weather bit. Let me show you one final thing. Let's try to do right. Yeah, exactly. Let's try. I want to point this out because this is pretty insane. So let's go back here for a second and just say this. I'm not even going to go to the API. I'm going to go here and I'm going to go to my chat GPT. I have the GPT-4 paid bit. I'll say I want a new chat for GPT-4 with 3 plugins and I need Zoom not to be here. Okay. So I want to write a Python program to consume data from this API. Can you help? I guess. What am I doing? The person moves that way. Yes, there we go. What kind of madness is this? All right.
The puzzles are getting so much harder. I'm like, just to get to the AI, we have to prove it's ridiculous.
I'm going to need an AI to solve my puzzle for the
to
AI
solve exactly.
So it notices it's an API. It provides you weather data. It knows that. You can consume it through request. So you begin by pip installing requests. And it gives me the base URL in a default city. Look at this, folks. I didn't even give it the actual endpoint. All right, so it gives me this feels like. So first of all, let's just see if I can get this to run down here. We'll go new file, D7 GPT weather. Name, def main. Something's going to go in there. Hold tight. It even talks about error handling and like what's going on here. So let's just go copy this code and put it there, except for I'll move the import bit up because I'm not a monster. All right. And look at this. This is looking, besides misspellings, kind of, it's still okay. Let's try to run this, see if it works. Default, press enter. All right, working. I should have just typed that.
Even the default, nice. Nope.
So location name. So it didn't quite get that right. Let me see if I can give it some help here. So it got really close, but let's copy this and go. That's not quite right. The JSON response is like this. And watch, I'm going to say like this without entering it. I say, okay, awesome. Please provide the example and I'll fix it. I apologize. I've been a bad AI.
I've been a naughty computer.
So look at this. I mean, it got really close before, but now it's like, all right, coming along here. Wait for it to see if it, oh, look at it inline that stuff. Nuts. We're going to improve this in a minute. Feels like wind speed. Okay. I would somehow wish it would just like stop being like a chatbot and just spit it out. Okay. That would do this. So one more. I have a reason for showing you all this. Look at that. That is crazy, right? Let's go further. I mean, it got it totally right. And it did way more than I did. I want to use async code with HTTPX. Can you rewrite it for me? Let's see. Well, we're not done. Look, it's a great way to make efficient HTTP requests. Here we go. First, you have to have this done, and then I'm not going to run this one more time. I just wanted to. The more you go step by step instead of try to get it to do everything at once, the more likely it will help you. Almost there. I'll go ahead and start typing.
I think Graham is asking if we can confuse it by giving it Scotland.
We could give it Scotland, but like you'd have to. This thing doesn't care what city. Like I'd have to tell it to consider the country, but I think it would actually do it. Like for example, is it asking for? It's not asking for the state, right? Let me do this next thing, and then I'll show you. Can we make this better with Pydantic? Certainly we can. It'll validate it. You might have heard about JSON to Pydantic, but there's also GPT to Pydantic. So let's just do that and watch what it comes up with. Location, weather. It's the same thing that came out of JSON to Pydantic, although it didn't use model, it used weather response, which is a better thing. So here we have the async version with Pydantic. And it might not be perfect, but it's a pretty darn good start. You know, like I've typed 4 or 5 things in here, and I'm sure we've been talking for a long time, but like Chat GPT didn't know that, right? We're kind of starting from scratch here. Hey, and here's what we did. Here's why it works this way. Okay, thanks, GPT. One more time. No, not there. And let's just see if it runs.
All day.
Yes. Oh, let's see. Go here. I think there might be something that could be none. What did it do wrong? What did you do, GPT? Input should be a string for state. Location. City, state. What did you do?
What's also fun is a lot of times I'll do ChatGPT and also Bard.
Let's see how they go.
Yeah, and a lot of times for me with Python, Chat is the one that's the winner for me.
Interesting, yeah. I don't actually know what it's doing wrong because it looks like it should be location state, unless there's something different here. We won't mess with this too much. There's state. This is called location down here. It was, right? Location, forecast, weather. I don't know. I'll go figure it out. Oh, there's just one more thing here. I'll put this into GPT.
Yeah, have it fix what it got wrong.
There we go. Yep. Oh, make the state optional. Okay, that's fair. We rewrote it. Yeah, rewrote it. Technically, I think that might, although it's not really necessarily what I want. I think this might work. Okay, so this is the last thing I wanted to show you. Is just like we have these tools now, and they're surprisingly good. Yeah, they're surprisingly good. Let me let this finish, and then I'll address Graham's statement real quick.
We had a great chat with Al the other night about when, why, and where, and at what levels and experience levels one should be using ChatGPT, and why the beginner should use it as a rubber ducky, but not have it type out all the things for you.
Sure.
Whereas you could literally use it to write, like, do most of the typing and then tweak a couple of things.
Exactly. I don't want to, if there's not a JSON to Pydantic equivalent, like I want it to kind of do that for me, right? Look at this. It fixed it. I told it to fix it and it did.
Go fix it. Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've been a bad AI. All right, here's the last one. Please also allow us to pass the state and country to the API. So what are we going to get here in this one? Oh, we've got it. All right. We'll pass this as parameters. You got to watch it, type it out. But I guess comments, questions while this thing is writing code for us.
I'm blown away. This is amazing as always. I would actually, I normally don't do this, but I would love it if you you have courses on several of the things that we've touched on here. You've got an HTTPX class. I would love it if you just pitched yourself and talked about some of the classes that you do.
Sure, I appreciate that. And I threw them at the end here. So I've got
awesome.
three courses that are like super relevant. Consuming HTTP services. Honestly, this one's a little bit old, so it doesn't have the async stuff and so on. So it may be relevant. I think it's pretty good, but it may actually not touch on some of the newer things you're really psyched about. But there it is. Python for absolute beginners is awesome. And from Excel to Python, from the data science side of these things. And then people can just check out Talk Python Me podcast, Python Bytes. Like, for example, a few weeks ago, we talked about Parcel when I ran across it and why it was cool and not better, but an interesting alternative to Beautiful Soup. So listening to the podcast is also a real good way. And then don't forget the slides, links in the chat from the beginning.
Yeah, and we will certainly, I will go through this and make sure that every single last one of these links is posted into the show notes for anybody watching this in the future. Tons of fantastic information. Roger, you're like You're shaking your head in the corner like, wow.
I'm literally just blown away again by how quickly he codes, but just to see even just the interaction between ChatGPT and how the code presented itself and then fixed itself, that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, well. It's wild, right? All right, let's see, Graham. Let's go Dublin, Ireland. Is that Ireland? IL? No, that's Israel.
IRELAND.
Yeah.
The two-letter country code.
No, Ireland. You're right. For that part is not the two. I don't know.
Graham says try IE.
That would be what I'm looking for is the problem is it once. I'll just put that there. Ireland.
It's looking for
the state. Yeah, it's like I don't know.
Well, the state's optional, isn't it?
No, the server is saying bad request that says like you didn't provide the state. It should be optional. Right. But I'm telling you, the API is not that advanced, right? It's just for demo purposes. So don't build a weather app on it. But it's really fun. So anyway, here's the takeaway, y'all. Like we have this whole spectrum, and there's basically tools that apply at every level, except for third party when it's really crappy. Just maybe skip that, right? Maybe create your own using ChatGPT. I mean, this GPT stuff is awesome. Like, I want to do this in Flutter and Dart. Can you help me convert the program? And these things all just certainly no problem. What we're going to do. So there's just so many of these cool tools out here that make writing code to consume this data and these APIs really, really easy. The tools you pick really vary by the situation, right? Am I going against a website with no API? So maybe that's HTTPX and Parcel. Am I going against like an RSS type thing? Then I could use Feed Parser. Am I going against a proper API? Probably HTTPX for that. If it's a third party or a first party one, it just pip install that and do what it does, right? Hopefully they have a async version. But yeah, you can see it. It works in all languages. So if you find an example, say somebody has an example of consuming the Slack API in Java, dump it in here and say rewrite that in Python for me, and it'll do it. It'll do it. I'm working on a class on typing, and here we go. And I wanted to have an example of code in Python, so I dumped in this big bit here, and I said, you know what? I want that in C# because I want to contrast the languages. So here's the C# version. I want that in Swift. Here's the Swift version. I want that in TypeScript. Here's the TypeScript version. All of those ran and were identical output to the original. So if you have an example that's not a Python example, you're probably able to get this to work here. So anyway.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Yes, I speak C#. Why do you ask?
Of course. I'm an expert. Please close your eyes for a moment. So anyway, thank you for your time. Hopefully you found this interesting, and hopefully it lived up to my billing where I said, no matter your skill level, you'll find something that will surprise you here. So anyway, thanks.
Yep. No, it absolutely lived up to it. I super apologize for the poor recording situation that I'm in. But yeah, no, you rock it all the time, Mike. That's
thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me, and thanks everyone for sticking around.
Cool. Well, everybody, have a wonderful evening. We will see you again next week, and have a good night.
Good night. Thanks.
Bye, y'all.